All right, let's talk about Carriers. 2009 post-pandemic thriller starring Chris Pine, Lou Taylor Pookie, Piper Perabo, Emily Van Camp, and Christopher Maloney. This is a surprisingly really easy and good movie, especially given today's circumstances. It's... My girlfriend thinks I'm a little weird and demented because I wanted to watch this movie, given today's atmosphere and the corona going on and all that. But this is a really good movie. I watched this movie back in 2009 or 2010 when it came out, and I was really surprised by this one. Given that we're all cooped up in the house, I wanted to watch this one again and just see if it really held up. And this, surprisingly, is a good one. I love this movie. This is an easy watch for me. Carriers tells a story mainly of two brothers, Brian and Danny. Brian, played by Chris Pine, is the rough around the edges, kind of hard-headed, stubborn guy. And Danny is the Ivy League school, Harvard type person. And they are traveling cross-country to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I believe, to a vacation spot that their parents took them as kids. It's their childhood memory. And they are accompanied by Piper Perabo, who is Brian's girlfriend, and then you have Emily Van Camp, which is Danny's friend. And they are traveling cross country in the middle of a post-pandemic where a lot of the country has been wiped out. We don't get too much information on the virus and the actual numbers of the population, but given the hints here and there, you definitely know that we are in post-pandemic territory, post-apocalyptic territory. A lot of the world is gone. We are in the fight for survival, where gas is precious, food's precious, and everybody is the enemy, and it's every man for themselves, which builds a lot of tension, and I think which kind of hits home, and it's kind of scary. I know there's a good portion of the country who think the government's going to declare martial law, and, people are kind of freaking out about this whole thing, but it's not going to get to that level of extreme, but it's nice. I feel like some people love to fantasize about it, weirdly. The acting in this movie, I am going to give a strong 9 out of 10. The acting is so strong in this movie, and I think that's what really shines and what really drives this movie to be so goddamn entertaining and good. Chris Pine, the relationship between Brian and Danny, this is a brother-focused story. These two brothers who are so opposites, and they're just the way they clash, but they're brothers, so they love each other, and the dynamic between the two is just so damn good, and the characters were so well written. That's the cool thing about Carriers is very close. There's a handful of characters, and they're so well written, and the way they perform with each other is just refreshing and so good. The chemistry and the dynamic between all four of the main characters, but also the two brothers especially, is just so good. And I especially love Piper Perabo and Chris Pine's characters together. There's a couple moments later on in the film that really fucking pull at the heartstrings, and it's just such good writing, I think. As for the story and screenplay, it's a solid 7 out of 10. There's really nothing crazy about the story. It's a pretty generically written story where you have the world going to shit, and you have these group of characters who are kind of getting from point A to point B, and they have obstacles. Again, the story itself is not cleverly or too clever, but it doesn't need to be. It's such a good movie, and the characters are so well written. And the movie does a really good job at exposition. It tells the story, and it fills you in on the background and the history of everything with just very vivid imagery and just creepy imagery, and really good dialogue between the characters. There's nothing like too obvious or in your face that kind of takes you out of the story or the movie. It does a really good job. As for the gore, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10. I mean, this is a thriller / horror movie, even though I don't really consider it a typical horror movie. There's a couple violent scenes that lead to some gore, but there's nothing too squeamish or nothing too over the top. It's pretty realistic, which makes this movie so effective. I keep going back to the way this movie was written, and this is why it was so effective. For scare factor, this has to be a 10 out of 10. I mean, given today's circumstances, today's environment with the COVID-19, people are losing their shit right now, and it's pretty fucking scary. Overall, I'm going to give Carriers an 8 out of 10. This is a very strong movie in my opinion. I feel like the cast is great, the acting, the story, and the general atmosphere of being so grounded and the chemistry between the characters. I mean, overall, this movie, I love this movie. This movie's so good in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the movie Carriers. This is such a good movie. If you guys seen this movie, leave some comments down below. Let's discuss this. And don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe. It really helps the channel and I super appreciate it. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one. Later.